Right, so let's do this. Our great British debate this hour. And the question is it time to stop caring about COVID rule breaking? Nicola Sturgeon has been reported to police after being filmed apparently breaching Scotland's face mask rules. Footage on social media shows the First Minister without a mask in East Kilbride in a barber shop, which she had visited on the election campaign trail. And also, as somebody pointed out, I noticed that most of them in the shop weren't wearing masks either, which is interesting. She posted footage of the visit on her own Instagram account with her mask on. Wonder if they were wearing theirs. But do we really care anymore? The British public have been subjected to countless days of Partygate speculation, and the Prime Minister's fixed penalty notice. Is there actually public fatigue now over politicians being attacked for not following COVID guidance? So for the great British debate this hour, I'm asking, is it time to stop caring about COVID rule breaking? Get in touch now, obviously by the usual methods at GBNews, or you can text us, send us a message on text. I'm not going to give you my phone number, no. Or you can send us a message via email. It's gbviews@gbnews.uk. Right, let's see what my panel make of this. I'm joined with political editor for the Sunday Mirror and Sunday People, Nigel Nelson, and also comedian Leo Kearse. Nigel, straight to you on this one.
OK, no, it's not time to forget. That when it comes to... If it was an ordinary person and some evidence comes to light, there was a minor breach of the rules 2 years ago, I think it would be a waste of police time to go and chase them. We're not talking about an ordinary person, we're talking about the rule maker who became the rule breaker.
Yeah.
People are furious about the fact that they couldn't see dying relatives, they couldn't go to funerals, they couldn't have weddings. All those things were going on because they obeyed the rules.
Yes.
The Prime Minister quite clearly didn't by having these parties. Now, I know his defence seems to be, oh, well, it was a workplace, so that's fine. Workplaces are meant to be exempt. But hang on a sec, I mean, workplaces don't have cheese and wine around them. You don't have tables.
They might do. Keir Starmer had a little party, didn't he? Or, sorry,
he had a beer.
And they even ordered in, didn't they?
You don't have tables groaning with alcohol unless you're in a pub, and the pubs were closed at the time.
Well, hold on a minute.
So the rules were fairly clear about the things you could and couldn't do, and I think I agree with Rod Little on that one. The Prime Minister must have known that what he was doing was not right.
Look, we all know, why is it that when we talk about Boris and we know that he's not that great with attention to detail, everybody acknowledges that, but why is it when there is detail that he hasn't followed, and clearly he's not that up with attention to detail, now we say that he must have known about it and he must have followed it? I think there is a level in parts of what he was doing that he may not have realised he was breaking the rules. I'm not saying it's excusable.
He's the Prime Minister, he should do.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it's excusable, but what I'm saying is that we have to be real because we are actually human beings. And actually, I did point out Keir Starmer, but you seem to think that was OK. Or is it because it was only one and not more than one? He had a meeting, I think, in the constituency office. There are 6 of them, apparently. He said 6, there might have been more, but there was a rule of 6, so he's not going to say 7. Then apparently they ordered food and they had beers. What does that equal, then? Are they allowed to do that?
Well, I mean, the whole point was that was looked into, and the answer was yes, they were actually.
Oh, right.
They were actually allowed to do that. Should Keir Starmer have picked up a beer? I mean, photographed with it? No.
What's the difference? Why is he OK and Boris isn't?
But what we're talking about here is we're talking about a party. We're talking about, in some cases...
Keir Starmer is incapable of partying. I believe you.
Actually, I do too. I mean, he was even thrown out of a pub, wasn't he?
Yes, he was, actually, yeah. For different reasons, nothing to do with COVID. What was going on in Number 10? This is actually the centre of government. What was going on there, some of the parties were parties, they were pretty raucous. The one that Boris Johnson's been fined for is a pretty minor breach, I accept that.
Yes.
And I was really surprised, actually, that Rishi Sunak got a fine as well, for just popping in.
Because he's Rishi Sunak, yes, exactly, because he's not Boris.
He could afford it. His wife lent him the money.
Yeah, exactly. For just popping in. So why is just popping into a party OK, but, being...
Well, it wasn't OK, apparently. You got a fine.
Well, he did get a fine, but you're saying you're surprised that he got a fine.
I'm surprised he was fined for that, yeah, because, I mean, he was going there to a meeting. Someone said, come this way, there's a party going on. He poked his head round the door, had a soft drink, and ends up with a fine.
Wasn't it Boris's birthday? Wasn't that what that was? That was the birthday.
That's right.
Where he was commandeered by cake.
That's right. And now we're getting a whole string of other parties coming along, which the police are looking at. The most recent allegation is that at one for the leaving do for his press secretary, that he actually instigated it. Now, if he did instigate it, he then becomes the organiser of it. And we're not talking about a 50 quid fine then. I mean, the penalty for that would be £10,000. And that's what happened to people around the country who organised parties. That's what they were fined.
Right.
It didn't happen to me.
No,
did you organise one?
Yeah, organised loads of parties. All these people complaining like, I was following lockdown rules. Why did you follow lockdown rules? That's your own fault. If the government brings through ridiculous rules that you obviously shouldn't follow, then next time you've learnt a valuable lesson. Don't follow them. Go and have a party. Go and do whatever you want. Like, don't let the government, guide your life, and don't demand that the government comes around and wipes your bum for you. It's like this. Honestly, people just want to be mollycoddled and namby-pambied in this country, and I think we need to step away from that. Anybody following the lockdown rules is the sort of person who ejects a USB stick before they pull it out. The sort of person who pays for carrier bags at the checkout. Well,
I think it's called we're breaking the law if you didn't follow them. I think that's why most people did it, and also some of us saw a level of common sense. We were doing it because, say, for example, not visiting a relative in hospital. You wouldn't really need to mandate that to me. I know that the hospital is probably the most likely place I'm going to catch COVID. So I hate to say it, but if my relative were dying in hospital, I probably wouldn't want to go there because I wouldn't want to be in their bed, in that place because I've got 2 small children and I'm a single mum. Yeah. So I would make that judgment.
It would be boring and the parking's expensive, you stay at home.
But I would
very sensible.
I would make that judgment because I think that's an intelligent decision to make. But what the point I was making to Rod is that in some respects the government alleviated your burden of guilt by making it a law so that if somebody did die and you didn't go and visit them, you wouldn't feel so guilty.
But people only obey the law when they actually see that there is a purpose behind it. And one of the things that, while there were anomalies on the edges of all the rules, because they were so quickly introduced, when it came down to the basic one, lockdown, that made common sense. There was this virus whizzing around the place. The best place to stay to avoid it was at home with the people, with just your near family around you. And as a result of that, infections went down. If you look at the graphs, when lockdown was happening, we have very few infections.
Well, a lot of people who denied that lockdown is any good would say that actually no, and the actual other things that were collateral damage was worse. So, but some people would say...
Well, that's some people judgment,
some people would say that lockdowns didn't work, but then for the reason that you suggested, then I agree that they did on that level.
There's never been a time in history when suspending people's basic human rights of freedom to associate, freedom to practice religion, freedom to no intervention in their family life. There's never been a time when that's worked out. It didn't work out in the Soviet Union. It didn't work out in communist China. It was still not working out in communist China, in Shanghai. And, I think, obviously, there are some benefits to locking down, particularly when we didn't know what the disease was. But in retrospect, the impact, the cure is worse than the disease. We're seeing so many long-term impacts.
But we didn't know what that disease really was, to be fair to the whole, the whole situation. And this is also the first time that we, as a sort of generation of people, the last sort of 100 years, have been through such a situation where we've had to try and navigate through it. So we've learned a lot of lessons. So I don't actually blame the government for trying to make things work and then trying this and that doesn't work and that one seems a bit ridiculous and then overcomplicating things as we do with every single thing. If you look at the visa situation with Ukraine, we just love to overcomplicate things. So I don't blame the government. So that's why when I look at it and see that politicians made these rules, but then some of them broke them, some of them didn't. A lot of them did and didn't get caught. I find it's too trivial in a sense because there's too much going on. And I think it's irresponsible actually to try and depose the leader because of it.
And Boris's parties did happen at the workplace. I know, not everybody likes to drink at work. I wish I was drunk right now. I've always liked drinking at work.
Sure you're not?
When I was a bus driver, when I was an airline pilot.
He's joking, by the way. Don't drink and drive. It's
obviously don't drink and drive a bus.
Just don't drink and drive. Full stop. Don't drink and drive.
But certainly drink if you're running the country. This is a very stressful job. You'll make faster decisions.
He could have drunk on his own.
But that's the thing, isn't it? So do you think... I mean, look, I would say that, for me personally, my view is that it's time to stop all this nonsense of going back and forth. Because, for example, the party where he had a sort of meeting in with the kids in Bovington, and then they gave them some cake and whatever it was. And then that very same day, he goes back and has a similar scenario in his own sort of office. This one isn't a party, that one. I mean, come on. We've got to acknowledge that there was some real inconsistencies, and is it really the right thing to actually try and get rid of him for that? If it was a bigger breach of something that was heavily serious, then yes, but these fixed penalty notices...
Melanie, you're suggesting the Ukraine war is such that actually overtakes any kind of getting rid of Boris at the moment?
No, I think it just puts things into perspective, and I actually wouldn't... Personally, I would never have even been getting rid of him, irrespective of that anyway.
But it is also a critical juncture for Western liberal democracy. So we're engaged in this ideological battle against a dictator.
But we're not at war.
Russia. We're not at war, but we kind of are. The whole of the West is at war at the moment. It's a proxy war. It's like Vietnam or Afghanistan. We're funding and we're arming Ukraine in the war
Russia.
to defend themselves against a despotic, tyrannical dictator.
But does that mean we can have a law-breaking leader because that is going on?
No, but
a little law.
Well, listen. The fixed penalty whole situation was that set in the 1980s. So it's a new thing where the fixed penalty notice. So I just don't think that, for me personally, that is a big enough imposition to get rid of somebody, especially when he's got a great relationship with Volodymyr Zelensky. Whether he's used it to help, obviously any leader will do these things to try and improve their stature within the world.
Parliament?
Yeah, but because of a party, though. I mean, if it was something...
Well, hang on. So far, we have a Prime Minister who is a liar and a lawbreaker. We
for a party,
though.
He's always been a liar.
And he's not alone anyway.
So
that's okay.
It's priced into the brand. So we expect it.
That really worries me.
Anyway,
the idea that lying is priced into the brand.
Listen, they all do it. They're all doing it. They're all doing it. They're all making things up. They're all doing it. He's not on his own.